Hello and welcome. My name is Marcos and this is Self-Psychology. Today's topic is on paranoia. Received an email a few weeks back and decided to hold off until the perfect time, and I think this is a good time to talk about paranoia. Now, a couple of things before we talk about paranoia. First of all, I apologize ahead of time if the noise around us interferes. Seems like it's a pretty busy day around here today, so we may hear some traffic, and I apologize. I'm doing something about it. I received a donation, and I'm going to use that donation to buy a microphone, an attached microphone, so that hopefully it'll take out some of that noise. The other thing is, a few people have asked me if I'm available for phone sessions to parts other than the US, throughout the world, or email sessions, and the answer is yes. So just send me an email at mquinones@nyu.edu and we can schedule a time. Now, when we talk about paranoia, what comes to mind? Fear, right? When we talk about paranoia, the first thing that probably comes to mind is fear. And when we talk about fear, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? It should be anxiety, okay? Because fear is derived from anxiety. So that's how we want to look at paranoia and many of these other situations that happen in our lives. We want to reduce them down to what mental, emotional disorder may be going on, whether it's depression, anxiety, jealousy, guilt, shame, etc. So with paranoia, we say, well, when someone's paranoid, they tend to be suspicious, they tend to be fearful, they tend to feel that the world is out to get them, specific people are out to get them, and that's a type of fear. Anytime we think about fear, we should start thinking about anxiety. Now, when we think of anxiety, what are the two things that have to happen for us to get anxious? That's right. Fear of something bad happening in the future. Okay, it hasn't happened yet. Something bad happening in the future, and when that bad thing happens, it's going to be horrible. Okay, you take out one of those things, and you don't have anxiety. Now, it sounds simple, I know, and it's much more complicated than that. But when we reduce these things to something we can label, like anxiety, then we can handle all of our anxiety kind of the same way. Okay? But we're talking about paranoia here. So let's focus on paranoia. Now, first of all, most of us suffer from paranoia at some point in our lives. Okay, we get scared of some situation, some person. So this is a normal thing. Studies have shown that up to 1/3 of the population, and that's millions and millions of people, 1/3 of the population at one point or another suffer from paranoia. And these people don't have to be mentally ill. Okay, you can suffer from paranoia and not be mentally ill. Now, there are some type of paranoia that is more severe mental illness, and that's the schizophrenic type. So when you're schizophrenia and you have paranoia, which is hearing voices, thinking people are following you, seeing people that are not there, then that's a more severe type of paranoia. I'm going to focus more on the more run-of-the-mill type of paranoia that affects us all. Now, like anything that happens, the first thing we should try to look for is the truth, right? What's rational? Now, if I feel that someone is following me, okay, there may be some truth in that. I'm not so disturbed that I'm just gonna fabricate this. There could be something going on. Or if I'm paranoid that my partner is cheating on me, well, there may be some truth to that as well. So these paranoid thoughts don't just kind of come up out of the blue. There could be a kernel of truth in that. And it's good to kind of find it. Okay, it's good to kind of find what it is that kind of triggers this. So again, let's say there's a female that she's all of a sudden starting to worry about people following her home at night, right? Now, all of her friends and family tell her, you know what, you're paranoid. You're suffering from paranoia because nobody's following you and there's nothing going on, so get over it. Well, that's not going to help the person get over it. What's going to help the person get over it is to first find out where this thing started. Okay, when did she start to think about someone following her? And maybe something happened. Maybe she was walking home one night and a particular person looked at her strangely. Or maybe when she was a child, she was followed. And now for some reason she had the thought, and now she's starting to think that people are following her again. So the first thing to do is to find that thought that kind of triggered it. So then you can start to feel that, it's not you being disturbed, that there's some truth in it. Now that you've identified where this thing started and how it came about, then what you want to go back to, like we always go back to, is the ABCs, right? You want to start to identify when is it that you get this paranoid, this fear, this anxiety feeling all the time. So you want to see when this thing happens to you. Now, is it when you're doing drugs, for example? Again, just like severe mental illness of schizophrenia, when you do drugs, there's a chemical imbalance in your brain, and that tends to cause anxiety and paranoia. So again, that's not what we're dealing with here. What we're dealing with is the more run-of-the-mill. So, or is it every time you come home late at night? Every time you come home and it's dark out, then you start to have these paranoid feelings. So now you identified the A. You know the C, the consequence, which is paranoia, feeling, anxiety. Now what are the thoughts that you're telling yourself? Okay? And that's what you want to start to focus on. Now, of course, you want to write this down. Too many people tell me, Marcos, this doesn't work for me. But I'm always asking people, do you have your journal? Do you have a CBT, RABT journal where you write down all of your ABCs? Well, no. Well, you know what? We're dealing with the brain here. So if you think you can overcome this just mentally, well, you have that working against you, because it's your brain that's causing the paranoia, the anxiety, and everything. So you need to kind of remove yourself a little bit from what's going on. Okay? And how do you do that? You do that by writing it down. So for example, you want to start with a log. Every time you feel paranoid, you want to write it down. So then you can start seeing a pattern. Okay, every time when I get home late from work and it's nighttime, I feel paranoid. Or every weekend when I come home late from a bar, I get paranoid. Or every day at work, I feel people are looking at me. People are doing things to sabotage my work so I could get fired. Whatever the paranoid feeling is, you want to start to jot it down so you can see the pattern and you can identify where's the truth in all of this that's going on. Once you identify that, then you start to take a look at the thoughts. So let's say the person that we're talking about, she comes home late at night and she starts to get these paranoid feelings. So what she wants to do is identify what is it that she's telling herself when this thing happens. So she's going to be aware now, because she wrote in her log all of the times that she gets paranoid. And today she's coming home, it's Monday night, and she's getting home and she's starting to feel paranoid. She's starting to look around. Now she starts to identify what are the thoughts that she's telling herself. You know, and I don't know what the thoughts are. Some of the thoughts I've heard is that there's a man following me. Or there could be people following me. People are out to get me. And, you know, a family member that doesn't like me is stalking me. You know, things like this. So you want to identify what are the thoughts that are there. Then you want to drill down. And again, this is where a therapist helps out more, because let's just say you have this thought that there's someone following you, a man following you, right? So then you do the behavioral exercise of identifying, writing down in your journal every time you see that man, okay? And again, you're going to start to notice that you don't see that person very often following you, or you don't see that person following you at all. The person may be walking their dog. So you start identifying what's going on. And so then you want to drill down and ask yourself, okay, it doesn't seem rational, it doesn't seem truthful that this particular person is following me. So why am I telling myself that this person is following me? And you're going to drill down. Okay, because if this person follows me, then this person may hurt me. Okay, so that means that I'm vulnerable. Okay, and why am I vulnerable? Why don't I have the confidence? Why am I not strong enough to manage the situation? And then you continue to drill down, and that's where the therapist becomes helpful. So I'm not expecting you to do this. So let's stay with the behavioral exercises. Once you write down every time you see someone that you think is following you, and you start to identify, well, maybe this person is walking the dog all the time when I come home from work, then you also want to show it to people that are not so connected to you. Like maybe a distant family member, and you want to explain the situation and get their feedback. Someone who's honest, someone who'll be honest with you to give you some really honest feedback, so that you can see, okay, there's a truth to this, that I'm feeling anxious, but am I exaggerating it? Okay? And the problem with paranoia is that it's like any anxiety. It gets in your way of functioning. So people start to stay home. People start not to go to work. People start to avoid situations where they feel they're going to be persecuted. And persecute is a big word, so I'm not saying like killed or anything like this, but followed, you know, and the person feels suspicious. That's the word connected to paranoia, suspicion. And you don't want to feel suspicious, so you tend to stay home and not do the things that are necessary for you to function in everyday life. This is a type of social phobia, okay? Think about it like that. It's a type of social phobia where you fear of something external. And it's only because you're internal, okay? Your internal, it doesn't feel strong enough to manage whatever is going on externally. So that's where you have to work on, okay? So what you want to do as far as treatment, you want to do behavioral exercises so you can show yourself the ABCs, the D, and the E. So when you say dispute that belief that someone's following you, you want to show it to yourself. It's not just disputing, okay, is it rational that somebody could be following me home every night? But you know what? It's possible. So what you want to do is a behavioral exercise so you can see what's actually going on. And then you start to expose yourself to the situation, and your anxiety goes down, down, down. and then the paranoia goes away. So again, you want to start with identification. You want to start with the A, the B, and the C. Once you got that down pat, then you want to do behavioral stuff to show you where that paranoia is an exaggeration of what reality is. And you'll see, once you start showing yourself that, your paranoia and your anxiety, your fear will go down. It's like any anxiety. Okay? I hope this was helpful. Live healthy and live happy, and I'll see you here hopefully next week.